Perth, and Chicago. American Airlines connects Lincoln to major hubs and destinations around the globe. Wherever you're headed, LNK gets you there with new nonstop flights on American Airlines.
Now boarding.
Convenient, fast, and stress-free. Book your next flight at LincolnAirport.com. LNK, make flying easy.
With UBT, you've got total control over your money. Like Doug, who runs his game day tailgate like a well-oiled machine.
I got burgers, brats, chicken, dogs, plus all the fixins. And with the UBT Go app, I can track my food spending from anywhere.
Pro move.
They don't call me Grill Sergeant for nothing.
No matter your goals, UBT helps you feel good about reaching them. Union Bank and Trust. Member FDIC.
Want to make the easy call? Call John Henry's. From leaky pipes to a broken AC, flickering lights to furnace fights, even drains and duct cleaning, we've got it handled. Plumbing, heating, air, and electrical, all under one trusted roof. Proudly serving homes across Lincoln, Omaha, and surrounding areas and ready 24/7. Visit calljh.com or call
John Henry's.
435-5555. John Henry's Plumbing, Heating, and Air.
and electrical.
Welcome into the post-game post-up. Nebraska basketball just finished up another game. Hustle down to the block and get position.
Shot clock to 7. Hoiberg missed. Got his own rebound. Right back up. Missed it.
And there he is. Garcia. How big has he been down the stretch for this Nebraska ball club?
10 points all in the second half. Now the lead back to 3.
Join 93.7 The Ticket to break down the best players and key moments from today's action.
Sanford a couple of steps from behind the line. And now Lawrence from the corner. He hits. And another eruption from all the red in Lincoln. Not even close. Creighton has not been able to hit anything. 0 for 8 from distance. Prager gets some space. He connects.
Post-game coverage of Nebraska basketball on The Ticket is sponsored by Union Bank and Trust, the Lincoln Airport, Jack Russell of Farm Bureau Financial Services, and John Henry's Plumbing, Heating, Air, and Electrical.
Here we gotta go.
Down to 5. Hoiberg kicks it out. Lawrence for the win.
It's the post-game post-up on 93.7 The Ticket.
All right, welcome in. Husker Hoops post-game show. Nebraska falls to the Purdue Boilermakers 80-77 in an overtime thriller that, I'll be honest, probably ended in one of the lamest ways possible. I feel tough for Jamarcus Lawrence. Lost the game on a wet spot. Maybe he misses the shot. Maybe he makes it. But on that last play, Nebraska turns the ball over. Jamarcus Lawrence gets the inbound with about 5.4 seconds left to go. And just a wet spot on the court. His feet slide out from underneath him. And on the replay, you can really see it. Just tough. One of the wildest innings I've ever seen there. And this game is going to be a little bit of a double-edged sword to talk about because there was a lot of good and the comeback, and there was a lot of ugly that required the comeback. So we'll talk about both of those things. And then, of course, I want your guys' opinion. This is one that I think we can all sit in a circle and talk about it because what a ball game that was. 402-464-5685. That is the Starter Heyman text line. Before we get too far into it, let's shout out one of our sponsors, Union Bank and Trust. Get a great rate on 6, 12, or 20-month CD with Union Bank and Trust. Learn more at ubt.com. Again, that is ubt.com. Like I said, I want to open it up to the text line as much as possible. I'll hang out with you guys until Austin Norman gets through his press conference. There's going to be a lot, I'd imagine, to talk about. This one might take a little bit longer. We'll go through some of the key stats. But let's see here. We got Davis in here saying, I'm embarrassed as a Nebraska fan. We're not for real. Mast had a chance to make the dang free throws for the win and misses it. Same old Nebraska joke. I'll say this much. Not the same old Nebraska. The same old Nebraska wouldn't be sniffing 20 wins, plus 20 wins already at this point in the season. let's not sit here and act like Purdue's a bad team. Now, this is a game that I agree. We had the opportunity to win it. We got to defend the court. You got to win these games. That kind of shows where you're at as a basketball program. And we do got some callers. I'm going to give it a couple minutes here while everyone gets settled in. And so if you're calling in, give me a couple minutes. We'll start bringing in some callers down the road here. But to my point, I mean, this isn't a nobody Matt Painter Purdue Boilermakers team. They're good. They had a little bit downtime where they were losing some Big Ten opponents that were maybe shocking some people, but you knew this was going to be a battle. And the ugly part of it was still a battle that I agree Nebraska should have won. The way we started out that game was tough to watch. The defense that Purdue was playing against Nebraska really just caught us off guard. Our offense looked kind of lockstep. We were turning it over. Purdue was doing a really good job just getting in passing lanes, making us uncomfortable. And our 3-point shot wasn't going in, and Purdue was red hot from the arc. I mean, that was a lot of their bread and butter early on. And in the second half, it switched. What was working for Purdue in the first half wasn't anymore. That, really good 3-point shooting completely fell away. It opened up the door for Nebraska to come back. Sanford gets going. You get a big shot by Rink Mast. Rink Mast starts getting his shot going. And all of a sudden, things looks like it's cratering in Nebraska's favor. And you get to overtime in crazy fashion. Again, by the way, as much as we can sit here and say, Nebraska should have won that game, Purdue, man, the opportunities they blew, how many free throws they were missing down the stretch there. In bonus, they were missing, and then in double bonus, they were missing both, which, again, just further allowed Nebraska to come back. It was a 22-point lead for Purdue on the road in Nebraska. And, again, you credit Nebraska for fighting back, but at the same time, that's a game you got to win at home. That's your home court. You got to defend that place, and you had more than enough opportunities to do so. Let's get to some of the more comments here. We got some people. It's our third loss. I'm not worried. Glad we played better in the second half. That's kind of where I'm at. Like, there's going to be some bad. There's going to be good in this as well. But we're not going to play Purdue in the first round of the NCAA tournament. To put that out there. Now, if we look that bad in the first half versus whoever we play in the tournament, well, then you still provide the chance for an upset. But all to say, I'm not worried about this team. This game doesn't shock me or scare me or make me want to take a ton of stock off of Nebraska basketball. If you just look across college basketball, the past week, a lot of the projected number one seeds were taking losses. All right, this is college basketball. You're going to see some craziness. This game isn't the one that matters the most. It would have felt great emotionally, but one that we really care about is when we get to March. So, want to put the pause on the false alarms. I get the frustration, especially with that free throw that we had the opportunity to go and seal the game. So don't get me wrong. I understand the frustration there, but let's not panic on this team just quite yet. Let's see. Cubsker chimes in. Very disappointing. I have no other words. I get it. Tough. Directly after the loss. Let's see. Husker Stew. Hey, how about number 7 team in the country? Come out and be ready to play the gosh darn game, especially at home. I agree with you. That's the ugly part. You're number 10 in the country. You got to act like it in the first half. They found it in the second, but again, the slow starts have at times killed Nebraska. You saw it earlier in the year. There was an an Oklahoma game. Nebraska was down by 16. Now, they made up for it in the second half, but that's where you just got to play a complete game. You play a complete game. We don't just beat Purdue. We probably beat them pretty comfortably. Same thing with Oklahoma. You don't just beat Oklahoma. You probably beat them by 20 because Nebraska actually did a really good job pulling away in that game down the stretch there. So those are the parts where I do get it. We're a top 10 team in the country. It's not great to start like that at home. And there's been a few moments like that where in years prior, that's kind of where we made the upsets happen. And now we're ranked and we kind of have the talent. We have the repertoire of being a top 10 in the country. And I don't know if the guys just got tight in that first half, which I'll be honest, that's what it looked like, caught off guard by Purdue's just aggressiveness on defense. I didn't think the officiating was awful. I thought there was 2 bad calls on Rink Mast, which that really killed us. I will say not having him in overtime down the stretch there because those offensive rebounds that was the game. Their ability to get that offensive rebound off the missed free throw gave them another opportunity, which led to them scoring, which led to Jamarcus Lawrence getting the ball with 5 seconds left and unfortunately finding one of the few wet spots that were on the court. Like I said, his feet goes out completely from under him. All right, let's keep getting to the text line here while we wait for the rest of the crew. Headline, bad on the defensive glass cost Huskers the game. Go Big Red. We can talk about that. Rebounding battle real quickly. Rebounds 54-37. Offensive rebounds 21-6. Defensive rebounds 33-31. Obviously, all those in Purdue's favor. Let's get to the phone line here as well. Only one in studio, so give me a little bit of grace. If you guys are calling in, turn down your radio, and of course, be patient if you are calling in. Let's bring in our first caller. You're listening to the Husker Hoops postgame show. Nebraska falls to Purdue. What do you want to talk about, man?
Hey, Nebraska's a phenomenal team. Don't get me wrong, but for being a top 10 team in the country, they struggle against teams that are very physical. Nebraska ranks 290th in the country in offensive rebounding. They lose games with physical teams because they can't rebound. I mean, tonight we should have won that game. Got off to a horrible start that first half. But other than that, I mean, I just think they struggle against physical teams and going to cost them in the tourney as well. Your opinion?
I don't think you're wrong at all. Yeah, appreciate the phone call. No, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head there. I know we have some texters saying the same thing. Again, you go look at our losses. Michigan, Illinois, and now Purdue. What do all those teams have in common? They're bigger, and they're more athletic, and they crash the glass. It's incredible that this game got to overtime. Nebraska almost won it because, again, a rebounding difference, 54-37. That's unreal that we're still in this ball game. But again, it goes to the ice cold stretch that Purdue won on in the second half, and then the red hot stretch that we got there for a little bit. But that's going to be the challenge. And even if you go look at the last time Nebraska was in the tournament, and not to scare people, because again, we're not going to go play Purdue or the super elite team unless we lose every game on the way out here, which I don't think is going to happen. But that Texas A&M game 2 years ago, physical team, more athletic, was more aggressive on the glass. Nebraska didn't have an answer. That's the one weakness of this team. And again, that's why I pointed out Rink Mask getting fouled out. That was a huge deal because we're already kind of soft in that area. That's going to be an area where we need to shore up. And some of it is, yes, they're bigger, not always going to be in your favor. But the other part of it, you got to find a body. I mean, sometimes you look up there and I see the guys in position to grab the board. Make sure your other hand is on that guy's chest, or at least know where he's at. So if he starts leaning in to try to grab that, you get your rear into him and clear him out. And if he still wants it, all right, that's a push in the back. He'll try to jump over and rebound it. Great. That's a foul for us. We're one more foul closer to bonus, or we're already at bonus and we get free throws. I mean, the caller's 100% right there, and I think the team and Fred Hoiberg will probably talk about it as well. That's how you beat those bigger teams. Is I get it. We don't have the the size to combat that all the time. But it's at least some of the time you got to force those guys out just by pure grit and will and find their body. Make it a challenge so it's not just an easy putback for them. And again, that was the game. That free throw at the end there where Nebraska had the lead, you got to get the free throw to give yourselves a chance. And, of course, Nebraska was unable to do so. Let's keep going down the text line here. Oh, we got plenty. We'll try to get to them all, so try to be patient with me. Let's see. Kevin in Southwest Lincoln, I think Purdue spilled water on the court. Looks like it. Again, Jamarcus Lawrence, the worst way to watch a game end. I mean, that one hurt. It almost felt like they should have got a redo. For anyone who watched it, it was just like Jamarcus Lawrence found the one wet spot on the court. I don't know if Purdue did it intentionally, but it was definitely there. Basketball basics from unknown texter, rebounding and free throws. Yeah, that's the other part I haven't touched on yet. We got to hit free throws. In this game, Nebraska was 65% from the free throw line, 13 of 20. That is 7 points you left up for grabs. On the lucky side of things, thank you, Purdue. They were 55% from the line, 11 of 20. And again, this is where it gets weird because Nebraska should have won that game. But at the same time, felt like Purdue was just gifting it at moments, just not able to finish the game in those environments. And shout out to all the fans who were at the arena. Obviously, I wasn't there. I had to have the TV on mute because we're doing live radio shows here. I'd imagine I'd been rocking because that was some horrendous free throw shooting by Purdue down the stretch there. But Nebraska, we got knocked down ours as well. Let's see. Unknown texter. We have lost to 2, 5, and 14. We battled back. Stop hating. Yeah, and this is where I'm saying. This is a double-edged sword kind of game. There's plenty of points to talk about. 8985 says, I suppose it's positive that we can play like garbage for 80% of the game Forget that we're supposed to rebound, miss shots, shoot terrible from the free throw line, and still have a chance to win in regulation if we hit the and one. The good and the ugly again. 4666 says Purdue cheated in overtime. Why would two Nebraska players slip and fall in the same spot? Purdue is in the huddle. Nebraska is great about cleaning the court. I did a rewind. It looks like Purdue twisted open a bottle of water during the huddle. Man, I'll tell you what, if you guys find that, send it to me, and I'll even put it on the stream if that's true. I don't, whether it's intentional or not, I have no idea, but just unreal. I didn't catch the second player slip, but like I said, if you guys want to put that in there, I would love to see it. Let's see. Jessica, can you explain why after Jamarcus fell, Purdue got a 2-point free throw afterwards? That is just something that me nor the other people around me could understand. I was doing radio. I believe he just got fouled. I think someone back there tried to grab his arm and send him to the free throw line. Do you think they flopped every other play, trying to draw fouls on Rink and Price? I think it was ridiculous. You know, I think that the refs were allowing teams to be physical. There was really a few plays in there that really bothered me. The one foul on Rink Mast, where Rink Mast actually was doing everything I just complained about a while ago. He put a body on a Purdue, and he was boxing out, and Purdue got like a hook and hold on Rink Mast's neck, and somehow the foul went against Rink Mast. So that one, you know, wasn't Purdue flopping. It just a bad officiating call there. But I will say they were just letting the teams play physical. And if Purdue wants to be the aggressor, they're going to get away with it a little bit more than Nebraska. Now, Nebraska did fix a lot of that in the second half, which opened up their three-point shooting as well. And it just all kind of collided together to help them give them that opportunity to go win the ball game. But, you know, they're just more physical. So I think the more physical teams typically can get the calls. And it wasn't until too late when Nebraska started to get a little bit more physical out there. Swift from Lincoln says, Dannon about to fire the Bop Boys. At least deserve an interview in his office about what the hell happened there. We got awesome game off of YouTube. And we have another Braden off of YouTube says refs have to call over the back. Unfortunately, refs didn't do that tonight. Yeah, I mean, there was some of those where, again, it's not an excuse to not go get a body, but you at least want to put the ref in a tough position because, again, I'm going to say it one more time. 54-37 was the rebounding differential. It's incredible that we were in that game. The turnovers in this game. We had 14, which is incredible considering how bad we started. Purdue only had 11. Points in the paint. We had 28. Purdue actually only had 24, which again goes to my point. Thank you to Purdue for continuing to yuck up threes in the second half there when I really thought, to everything we're just saying, their strength was inside with the size and aggressiveness, and they opted to not go that way. And again, kicked open the door for Nebraska to come back. Assist. Both teams tied at 21. Let's get to the shots. This is where rebounding matters. Purdue had 76 shots on the night. Compare that to Nebraska's 59. That's insane. How many more opportunities the Purdue had to shoot the basketball compared to Nebraska, and Nebraska still almost won this game. So it's incredible that we were able to be in this game. It's also incredible that we didn't get blown out. I mean, there's a lot of weird elements going on in this game. We talked about the free throw numbers already, but I mean, if you're going to get 76, give up 76 shots and you're only going to be taking 59, the odds of you winning that game are probably below 1% if both teams are Division I and both teams are ranked in the top 25% or top 25 in the country. I'm kind of surprised that the points in the paint are in Nebraska's favor, but for reference, so they were 28 of 76. Nebraska was 26 of 59. Purdue shot 37% from the floor. Nebraska shot 44% from the floor. So we actually shot better as the floor by a pretty significant margin. Purdue just had a million more shots. The three-point line, Nebraska also beat them there. Nebraska shot 38% from three. Purdue shot 28% from three. Purdue was 13 of 46 from three. Nebraska was 12 of 32. Those are good shooting clips. I mean, almost shooting 40% from three as a collective, as a team, is phenomenal. Shooting 44% field goal percentage, that's great. You'll take that too, especially when you're taking 32 threes. It all just kind of, again, accumulates into how the hell was Nebraska in this game? But also, Purdue just, I just can't believe the offensive route they chose in that second half. Yeah, it didn't make a lot of sense. There's a lot of things to talk about. I have so many texts flooding in here, so I'm going to throw it to break. we'll pause. I'll get to read some of those during the break, and we'll go ahead and answer some of those texts, as well as the phone line. I'll open that back up to you guys. 402-464-5685. You guys want to call in, give your opinion, obviously keep it clean. You're welcome to do so. Husker Hoops postgame show. Nebraska falls to number 13, Purdue, 80-77. Don't go anywhere. 93.7 Ticket, ticketfm.com.
Hi, this is Doug Keller. When I started my first little body shop in Eustis back in 1979, I never dreamed it would grow to 8 locations and over 100 employees in Nebraska. I knew then, as I know now, that if you treat people right, they will keep coming back and also send their friends, which is why our tagline is, where our customers send their friends. I guess there are many things in life that change, but the golden rule never does.
The most recommended Eustis Body Shop. That's who we are.
Have you been looking for home technology upgrades but don't know where to turn? Online information can be contradicting and confusing. Lincoln's own experts at Dio Technologies can turn your living room into the place to watch your favorite sports. Whatever your vision is, Dio Tech is ready to make it a reality. From home theaters to outdoor entertainment spaces, they bring you along through the entire process to make sure you get exactly what you want. If you're ready to upgrade your entertainment space, visit Diotech online at diotech.net or give them a call at 402-793-5124.
Jack Russell of Farm Bureau Financial Services is here to help you protect things that are most important to you. Whether it's your home, your family, or your future, Jack Russell has the proven experience to get the job done while developing authentic relationships with you. Give Jack a call today at 402-421-9100. Again, that's 402-421-9100. Or visit one of his 2 locations in Lincoln or Seward and learn how you can excel in the complicated world of insurance. Jack Russell of Farm Bureau Financial Services, a trusted and well-respected representative since 1999.
There are so many realtors in Lincoln and Omaha, but don't get overwhelmed by all of the no-names, plus all the different companies. Ben Bleicher with Professional Realty Group at Berkshire Hathaway Home Services Real Estate is your go-to option, whether buying or selling residential, luxury, leasing, investment properties, or commercial property, small or large. Ben's team offers decades of experience, unbeatable customer service, and promises to fully protect your interests throughout the entire transaction. Call 402-419-6309 for all your real estate needs. Ben Bleicher with Professional Realty Group of BHHS Ambassador Real Estate.
Let's fly. Your next trip starts at Lincoln Airport with American Airlines. Now flying nonstop service to Dallas, Fort Worth, and Chicago. American Airlines connects Lincoln to major hubs and destinations around the globe. Wherever you're headed, LNK gets you there with new nonstop flights on American Airlines. Convenient, fast, and stress-free. Book your next flight at LincolnAirport.com. LNK, make flying easy.
With UBT, you've got total control over your money. Like Doug, who runs his game day tailgate like a well-oiled machine.
I got burgers, brats, chicken, dogs, plus all the fixins. And with the UBT Go app, I can track my food spending from anywhere.
Pro move.
They don't call me Grill Sergeant for nothing.
No matter your goals, UBT helps you feel good about reaching them. Union Bank and Trust. Member FDIC.
Gentlemen, are you ready for something beyond the ordinary haircut? At Scissors & Scotch Lincoln, they blend your old-school barber feel with your favorite watering hole. Sink into a comfy chair, unwind with a complimentary drink, and let their master barbers handle the rest. It's not just grooming, it's an experience. Whether you're prepping for a big meeting, needing to get cleaned up before family comes to town, or just need a little time to yourself, Scissors & Scotch Lincoln delivers sharp style every time. Book now at Scissors & Scotch in Lincoln, just south of 30th and Yankee Hill Road.
Now back to the post-game post-up on 93.7 The Ticket. Post-game coverage of Nebraska basketball on The Ticket is sponsored by Union Bank and Trust, the Lincoln Airport, Jack Russell of Farm Bureau Financial Services, and John Henry's Plumbing, Heating, Air, and Electrical. It's the post-game post-up on 93.7 The Ticket.
Welcome back in. Husker Hoops post-game show. Harrison Runs on the ones and twos. We got a very good caller, one that you know very well, joining us shortly. But before we bring him on, let's shout out our sponsor, John Henry's Plumbing, Heating, Air, and Electrical. Proudly serving the Lincoln, Omaha, and surrounding areas, John Henry's can assist you with any service like electrical, maintenance, installation, or repair. Call today at 402-809-1159 or go to jhlincoln.com. With that being said, let's go ahead and bring him in. We got Jake Sorensen of Early Break on the Allo VIP line. Jake Sorensen, what are your thoughts?
Harrison, you hit it pretty well in your previous segment. I tell you what, man, I am depressed right now, and I'm trying to be as honest as possible. Nebraska trails by 22 points in the second half, forces overtime, and yes, the Rink Mass free throw miss was critical, and that's unfortunate. But how many times, Harrison, have you seen a team, especially at home, that's down big, force overtime and then lose in overtime? It was depressing the way that ended. Nebraska led by 2 with under a minute to go in overtime, and of course there was a very questionable, I would say, and one call on Oscar Clough. I would say that was probably a 2 free throw foul, not a bucket that should count with NBA continuation. But regardless, it's a loss. It is a loss by 3. It's devastating. And I'll tell you what, Harrison, here's my take is that I've never seen, especially as a home team, a more sad, depressing, or anticlimactic final 5 seconds maybe in the history of basketball. You're thinking it's 4.9 seconds to go. You're down by 1. Okay, let's maybe get it in the full court. Let's possibly get the ball to Price for maybe a free throw. Get him fouled for 2 shots, and Jamarcus Lawrence slips and loses the ball out of bounds, and that's effectively the end of the game. I mean, I am still right now depressed in my car driving home. That is not how that game, the way the comeback went, should have gone. I am, it's not a bad loss, again, losing to a top 15 Purdue team, but knowing that they really choked that away and you forced overtime and had a chance, Harrison, I don't know how if you're a Nebraska fan, you can drive home with a clear mind right now.
Yeah, I mean, Jake Sorensen, you're not wrong. I mean,
right?
You take a look at the text line, and people are in the same boat you are. Just here in the studio, my heart sank about 10 levels on that slip on the court. I mean, it is the most unreal ending you can have to what was going to be an electric finish to your point. Maybe the most anticlimactic finish I've ever seen with a wet spot on the court. I know some people are saying that's, Purdue was dumping water on the floor or whatever. At the end of the day, the home court's job is to make sure that court is dry. So right. I never, ever want to put the Mott boys into question, but what the hell happened there? We got to make sure that stuff's all cleaned up at the end.
I don't know. I'm saying, man, I can accept a loss. I mean, again, I'll accept the loss. It was an L. They lost by 3 points, but I would sure as heck accept a loss more if they had a chance to at least get a shot in the last 4 seconds versus throwing it, flipping and going out of bounds. I mean, that is just depressing. You've got a top 15 matchup. You have battled back from the depths of hell to potentially win this game in overtime against a great team that has had some adversity recently with some bad losses and, a close win against Oregon, which I thought was telling about their team coming in. I was wrong. They obviously were very prepared for tonight's game against Nebraska. And as you mentioned before the break, Harris, I mean, very questionable just decisions to play basketball in the second half. I mean, they jacked up a bunch of threes. When you are plus 17, as Purdue was in rebounds, I don't know how you just don't feed the inside the entire time. Oscar Clough and Kaufman Wren were both in double digits in rebounds, and Nebraska had no answers for them, which is a different story in terms of why there's a question about how far the team can go in the dance, because they're not very big. We know that Rick Mass is your biggest guy. He's not very big compared to Purdue's guys, and Illinois' guys, and even Mara from Michigan. And it comes down to effort. That's why, to me, Harrison, you go if you rewind the clock a little bit, that's why that first half was so depressing. Purdue had way more effort and want to than Nebraska for the entire first 20 minutes, and I don't know how that is acceptable from Fred Hoiberg and Leighton Lenzer. I'm sure they're upset at halftime, but it was too late. And if they forced overtime, that's great, but you're down 16.5 at home, and you look lethargic, and I just have no answer for that response in the first half, Harrison. It was terrible.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to say they played scared out there, but there was certainly some hesitance out there. And a lot of it, you credit Purdue, right? That's a good team. It's a top 15 team in the country. But they were jumping passing lanes, and it just felt like Nebraska was out of sort, and they weren't expecting it. And I think that's the point where you're looking at Purdue and some of the losses they've taken. What kind of Purdue are you expecting walking into the arena tonight? They were going to be hungry to get a win and go beat Nebraska, looking at the top 10 Nebraska team where they know that's where they think they should be and that we have no business. That's where Purdue Boilermakers are, and that's where they are historically in these past few years. And I don't know if that just caught him off guard. I mean, what did it look like to you in that first half? Did it look like hesitant, scared, not knowing the assignment? It just kind of blew me away.
Well, Fred Hoiberg, has had a rough go the first 4 years in Nebraska. He's obviously done well the last 3, but to his credit, the team he's played well against has been Purdue. I mean, I go back to when they beat number 1 Purdue a couple years ago with 14 threes, and Tominaga was huge. They stormed the court, and again, he has played Purdue well, especially at home in his tenure at Nebraska. And it's 14-1 off the bat, and they're hitting threes, and they cooled off from three-point land, but Nebraska still didn't do anything to chip in that lead. I mean, this game, despite forcing overtime, cannot be a 16-point deficit at halftime. It just can't. And all I can tell you is that, shots weren't falling for Nebraska, but you mentioned before the break, Harrison, that they had way more shots than Huskers because they were plus 17 in rebounds. If you watched that first half, I just thought they were the team that wanted it more. And I don't understand that. When you have so much to play for Nebraska, you're trying to get to a place you've never been. Again, you have been a 3 seed in the past, and you lost as a 14 seed in the dance. You're trying to win the Big Ten. You're trying to be a 2 or 1 seed, and you came out flat. And the arena was pretty pumped up, and it was deflated because they came out flat. And you can't ask the fans to lift you up when you're not making shots off the bat. And Nebraska did eventually get down to, I think, 9. There was 16 points a half, but that's a lot to ask for a home crowd that has been really exceptional all year long. And again, I don't know what the issue was off the bat or why they were so flat, but kudos to the Purdue for playing great defense and getting great rebounds and forcing the issue with making threes. But this comes down to Harrison. I'm not calling one player out, but again, Rick Mass, he makes that free throw with 9 seconds to go, 10 seconds to go. You're up by 1. There's no guarantee Purdue misses that shot and doesn't win the game in regulation, but you have a 1-point lead, and you didn't have it. And, Price missed a big free throw also down the stretch. That was huge. But kudos to Nebraska. They were down 12 with 3 minutes to go and forced overtime.
Well, on a quick side note, Purdue, yikes, on the free throw shooting at the end there. Right. And that's kind of part of opening the door for Nebraska, which good job on the Huskers for taking advantage. But on the other side note, that's why it also kind of stings again, because it's like Purdue was failing at critical levels to win that game, and they just kind of kept inviting us in.
Yeah, both teams missed a bunch of free throws, and if you're the home team, that's even worse, especially when you have very limited amounts to mess up and you're down by 22 points. You got to make every shot. And Sam missed a free throw, a couple of free throws. Price missed a free throw. Rink missed a big free throw at the end. It was not one person that just kept missing. But you're right, Harrison. Braden Smith missed a big free throw. I think Lawyer missed a free throw. And obviously, Clough, the big guy, missed a couple, and that's why you want to foul him. And Kopp and Wren did too. But that's a missed opportunity. Like we talked about, and these aren't the games that are going to kill you when it comes to the dance, but they're the what-if games that separates you from being a potential 1 seed to maybe being a 3 or 4 seed. And Nebraska's got games they should win. I'm saying easily because everything is obviously difficult in the Big Ten, but you've got games against Northwestern coming up and Penn State and Maryland, which are bad teams in the Big Ten. Obviously, Iowa, 2 games left will be tough to win both of those, if not just split those. But this is your last big chance at a big win, and to be down by 22 in the second half is shameful. It's certainly something that's applause-worthy to get it to overtime, but it's amazing to have all the momentum in that game to force overtime and still lose. And I know Rick Mass fouled out, and again, that's part of the deal. You go to overtime, but I don't think the arena thought that game would be a loss when it went to overtime, Harrison. Just the way that the comeback happened, you thought they were going to find a way to win, and I think that's why this is the ultimate gut punch, having an L when all is said and done the way it happened.
Yeah, I mean, the good, Nebraska found a way to send it to overtime. The bad, you shot 65% from the free throw line, and the ugly, again, the rebounding battle was 54-37, which of course allowed Purdue 76 shots to Nebraska's 59. We outshot them percentage-wise in every category, but again, to give up that many shots, a tough one to swallow. Jake Sorensen, before we go to break, what's your final thoughts?
Well, again, it's not a loss that kills the Huskers. I mean, in terms of winning the Big Ten, it could. Michigan's got a game left against Illinois, of course, and they've got some other games that could sneak up on them. But Illinois, of course, is playing great basketball. But let's not forget, for those who are freaking out and upset, let's just go back to what the preseason expectation was. If you made the dance, it's a win. I hate to say that's what you should be known. I mean, obviously you exceeded that expectation, but this is still a very good basketball team. The fact they forced overtime down by 22 at home is exceptional. It's a painful loss, but it just proves further to me this is a good basketball team that should get this monkey off its back of the no wins ever in a tournament. How far they go, I can't tell you that, but I mean, this team should win a game.
Well said. And I'll go ahead, let you go home, Jake, and enjoy that ride home. Try to find some peace and calm if possible. But we'll go ahead. That is Jake Sorensen. We'll let him go. And like I said, try to find his composure along with everybody else. We're going to keep this show rolling. We'll go past the hour since obviously with the overtime. And I see you guys chiming in here. I definitely want to get your thoughts as well. But we also got Austin Orman, who's going to be streaming in shortly, and he will give us his thoughts on the game. So don't go anywhere. Husker Hoops post-game show. We got a short break here, so stick around. We'll be back right here on 93.7 The Ticket.
With UBT, you've got total control over your money. Like Doug, who runs his game day tailgate like a well-oiled machine.
I got burgers, brats, chicken, dogs, plus all the fixins. And with the UBT Go app, I can track my food spending from anywhere.
Pro move.
They don't call me Grill Sergeant for nothing.
No matter your goals, UBT helps you feel good about reaching them. Union Bank and Trust. Member FDIC.
Jack Russell of Farm Bureau Financial Services is here to help you protect things that are most important to you. Whether it's your home, your family, or your future, Jack Russell has the proven experience to get the job done while developing authentic relationships with you. Give Jack a call today at 402-421-9100. Again, that's 402-421-9100. Or visit one of his 2 locations in Lincoln or Seward and learn how you can excel in the complicated world of insurance. Jack Russell of Farm Bureau Financial Services, a trusted and well-respected representative since 1999.
A membership with John Henry's will fast-track you to front-of-the-line service, seasonal tune-ups, and far fewer unexpected moments. That means no breakdowns, no waiting on a call, and no nonsense. It's consistent care that prevents small issues from turning into big bills. Join the Comfort Club and get VIP treatment 365 days a year with 24-hour priority response, member-only discounts, and peace of mind on your home's most expensive systems. Call
John Henry's.
John Henry's Plumbing, heating and air,
and electrical.
Gentlemen, are you ready for something beyond the ordinary haircut? At Scissors & Scotch Lincoln, they blend your old school barber feel with your favorite watering hole. Sink into a comfy chair, unwind with a complimentary drink, and let their master barbers handle the rest. It's not just grooming, it's an experience. Whether you're prepping for a big meeting, needing to get cleaned up before family comes to town, or just need a little time to yourself, Scissors & Scotch Lincoln delivers sharp style every time. Book now at Scissors & Scotch in Lincoln, just south of 30th and Yankee Hill Road.
Let's fly. Your next trip starts at Lincoln Airport with American Airlines. Now flying nonstop service to Dallas, Fort Worth, and Chicago. American Airlines connects Lincoln to major hubs and destinations around the globe. Wherever you're headed, LNK gets you there with new nonstop flights on American Airlines.
Now boarding.
Convenient, fast, and stress-free. Book your next flight at LincolnAirport.com. LNK, make flying easy.
Have you been looking for home technology upgrades but don't know where to turn? Online information can be contradicting and confusing. Lincoln's own experts at Diode Technologies can turn your living room into the place to watch your favorite sports. Whatever your vision is, Diode Tech is ready to make it a reality. From home theaters to outdoor entertainment spaces, they bring you along through the entire process to make sure you get exactly what you want. If you're ready to upgrade your entertainment space, visit Diode online at diodetech.net or give them a call at 402-793-5124. There are so many realtors in Lincoln and Omaha, but don't get overwhelmed by all the no-names, plus all the different companies. Ben Bleicher with Professional Realty Group at Berkshire Hathaway Home Services Real Estate is your go-to option, whether buying or selling residential, luxury, leasing, investment properties, or commercial property, small or large. Ben's team offers decades of experience, unbeatable customer service, and promises to fully protect your interests throughout the entire transaction. Call 402-419-6309 for all your real estate needs. Ben Bleicher with Professional Realty Group of BHHS Ambassador Real Estate.
This is Lincoln's home for sports talk on the FM dial. Also online at theticketfm.com. On the internet, KNTK FM Firth, 93.7 The Ticket. Now back to the post-game post-up on 93.7 The Ticket. Post-game coverage of Nebraska basketball on The Ticket is sponsored by Union Bank and Trust, the Lincoln Airport, Jack Russell of Farm Bureau Financial Services, and John Henry's Plumbing, Heating, Air, and Electrical. It's post-game post-up on 93.7 The Ticket.
All right, welcome back in Husker Hoops postgame show. This segment sponsored by Lincoln Airport. American Airlines is back at Lincoln Airport, bringing new nonstop flights from Lincoln to Dallas, Fort Worth, Chicago O'Hare, starting in June 2026, with seasonal winter service to Phoenix starting in winter of 2026. Tickets are on sale now. And again, that deal is active. I know it's like 70 degrees, 60 degrees outside, but it is winter, so those deals are active. Let's get to a couple of texters real quick, and then let's go ahead and bring in our guy, Austin Norman. But we got Jason chiming in. Hell of a comeback. If Nebraska plays better in the first half, they win this game easily. Unknown texter, rebounding is all about will. Looked like we were just waiting for the ball to come to us, then going to get it. We failed tonight. Certainly at the rebounding. Can't blame you there. Another own texter, even though we were bad on the glass, I still love the grit of this team. After watching the bad play of the first entire half, or watching the first 2.5 decades, I'll take a team that doesn't quit. So, of course, there is some good and there is some bad. Let's get our guy, Austin Norman, who was down there at the game. Austin Norman, your thoughts?
Wow, this had the chance to be something special, right? Going into the game, it was billed as a great one, right? A top 15 matchup here in Pinnacle Bank Arena. And for Nebraska fans, at least, it came out incredibly flat, right? I mean, being down 14-1 and 16-3 in the first few minutes of a game is really no way to make a living. Going down by 22 points right out of the gate in halftime, at that point, it was, can Nebraska make it respectable, right? Can you be, kicking yourself for the way the game started? But, okay, we found some things in the second half if you're Nebraska, and they're moving forward, right? Okay, we got this to build on with a more manageable stretch of the schedule coming up. Well, not only did Nebraska make it respectable, they put the fear of God in Purdue in multiple different points, right? Nebraska cut it from 22 down to 8. You're like, okay, good on you, Nebraska. You found a way. Well, then it keeps going down all the way to 4. Holy smokes. I mean, are they going to do this? There's 7 minutes left, 6 minutes left, right? There's a lot of game to go. Well, then Purdue immediately answers with a 10-0 run. Okay, there's Purdue, right? CJ Cox hit a couple. Lawyer was doing his thing. Clough continued to control the game. And Purdue got to a 99.4% chance to win, up by 12 with 2.5 minutes to go. Well, then Nebraska breaks out the 1-3-1 zone. Harrison, that paid dividends. Nebraska took that lead from 14 down to 7. And then Purdue missed its own free throws, right? I know people are talking about Nebraska's missed free throws, and both teams will be lamenting that. So, I mean, that's kind of even either way. And, in a one-possession game, especially one that goes to overtime, you're always going to look at free throws. If you just made one more, if you just made 2 more, both teams can say that, but I think Purdue has more of a gripe with that because if they make their free throws, Nebraska's comeback is put on pause, right? It's a lot harder for Nebraska to do. Credit the resolve from Nebraska's worst time of the season to get off to a slow start. Probably the worst half of the season that Nebraska's played, especially relative to the stakes and expectations. I know they had some clunkers early in the season against some of their bye game opponents, but that first half was so wildly uncharacteristic of Nebraska. They got back on beam. They found a way to do it. and they even held the lead, late into overtime. Sam Hoiberg takes that three from the left wing with Nebraska up 1. If that goes down, it's a take care of the ball, hit your free throws sort of moment for Nebraska. But he misses it. Purdue gets the rebound. Nebraska, contests another shot. But then the story of the game comes into play again. They get the stop in the second half. They don't get the rebound. And I saw someone asking about it. It was, an and one for Clough right there at the end of the game. He missed the free throw, ended up, not mattering. But that's continuation, right? That's the new addition to the college rule book, at least as I understand it, right? It looked to me like he was spinning to go up into his shot. So I understand maybe why that one was called. But no, I mean, you hold it against Nebraska that they got down 13 points before the first media timeout. You credit Nebraska for crawling back from down 22. I think if you would have told folks it was an 80-77 game that went to overtime, yeah, that about reaches expectations, right? These are two good teams that have their own matchups against each other. This is not the way I think anyone would have drawn up an 80-77 overtime game at PBA here tonight.
No, definitely not on my bingo card. I can't imagine the roller coaster of emotions that was inside the vault tonight. But, there's a few things to point out here. I keep saying it. The biggest one by far is the rebounding battle. And again, as a result, 76 shots for Purdue, 59 for Nebraska. That's obviously going to go against us significantly. Unknown texter chimes in there, says, how about you mention how much their big guys had height over us and hanging on us and hooking us all night? You knew that's what Purdue had. But at the same time, we mentioned it before, I was kind of surprised that they didn't go inside more with the big lead they had in the first half. How big of a problem was it, those bigs that Purdue had, in particular in the first half when they really utilized them? But, we see this pattern with Illinois, Michigan, and now Purdue when we kind of get outmatched physically by these bigger teams.
Yeah, it was a bit different of a way that Purdue went about it, right? Illinois went inside, especially early with the lobs. Purdue was surgical. Purdue was clinical offensively. And the big men, weren't going to work in the post. It was Nebraska just wasn't affecting the ball handlers. Purdue was moving around the court at will. It was a beautiful offensive first half from Purdue, and you credit the Boilers for that. But Fred Hoiberg has said, Nebraska's played bigger teams and never struggled that bad on the glass. And that's true, right? Yeah, Nebraska's gotten beat on the glass before this year. Nebraska's had some up and down rocky performances in the rebounding margin. But tonight, especially early when Purdue got out to that run, they were setting the tone. I thought Oscar Clough was the best player of the game for the Boilermaker. He missed his fair share of free throws down the stretch, only 2 of 5, only took 9 shots, but he ends up with 10 offensive rebounds, I believe is what it is for him on the day. Yeah, Oscar Clough ends up with 10 offensive rebounds. And then Trey Kaufman-Renn, third-team All-American last year, doesn't take a shot in the first half, but pulls down 11 rebounds. He ends the game with 16 defensive rebounds. And, you give up that many more shots, right? Purdue takes 17 more shots than Nebraska, only makes 2 more total field goals, only makes 1 more 3, and actually makes 2 fewer free throws than Nebraska does. The fact that Nebraska was able to hang in that game at all was pretty incredible with the way that, you give up those 21 offensive rebounds. You give up 14 turnovers and 19 points off of those turnovers. So again, it's a testament to Nebraska that they're able to do that. I'm, probably in the same boat as a lot of Husker fans where, rebounding has to continue to be, a focus for this team. They clearly weren't good enough tonight, and it certainly slipped over the last few weeks. I wouldn't be shocked to see Nebraska get back to being more physical in practice, right? That's when this team was better at rebounding, playing teams more even on the glass. But then they had the injury to Frager, they had the illness with Mass, and they were just down bodies. I think it's that time of the year where Nebraska needs to get back to the drawing board, get back to basics, get back to hitting each other a little bit more in practice, because there were times tonight, Rink Mass spoke in postgame. He was far from the only one, but Clough was Mass' assignment quite a bit of the night. There were so many times where Rink Mast was, a step or two out of position, right? And on defensive rebounding, that's where that becomes especially important, Harrison, especially for a guy like Rink Mast that doesn't necessarily have that natural nose for the ball. Fine rebounder, but more positional guy. It's so important for Rink Mast on defense to be in the right position, to do his work early. And Rink Mast in postgame took the blame for saying, yeah, when I'm going against a guy like that, no matter who I am or who I'm facing, you got to hit a guy like that early. He's tough to move off his spot because he's tall, he's strong, he's got a good base, a good center of gravity, and he just wants it that much, right? Nebraska, and not just Rinkmaster. I'm not going to put it all on him, even though he's going to take his fair share of blame for it. Nebraska stood around far too much. Nebraska didn't make first contact with guys. Mast and Hoiberg, Fred Hoiberg, both said that in post game. So the way that this loss happened, was completely preventable by Nebraska. It's the little things that Fred Hoiberg continues to harp on with this team on both sides of the ball, rebounding the glaring issue tonight.
Yeah, and what were some of the things that stuck out in that press conference? Because obviously you knew that was going to be the conversation with the rebounding and just the clear disparity there. But at the same time, there were positives. It was such a weird game to watch because to Jason's point, this team could still very likely end the season with just the 3 losses.
They could. I think, ending in the 4 to 5 range is most likely. I mean, Nebraska's schedule lightens up, but it's still not necessarily easy. Nebraska won't face many teams as big as Purdue the rest of the way. In fact, probably not until the Big Ten tournament. Again, will Nebraska see a team like this? Matt Painter gave Nebraska a lot of credit for making the comeback, said that he thought his guys, still for the most part got pretty good shots. And if they hit a couple more of them, it keeps the comeback at bay. If they hit their free throws, obviously keeps it at bay. Gave a lot of credit to Clough and to Kaufman. Wren gave some props to the Pinnacle Bank Arena crowd. For Fred Hoiberg, though, it's what I just mentioned. It was the little things, right? Get first contact. He thought Nebraska went away from its offensive process in the first half. And to me, that was most glaring, Harrison, when Nebraska's trying to crawl back into the game, right? They get down, by mid-teens or more points, and they have a little bit of momentum. They've gotten a few stops. They're starting to string them together. Purdue's starting to scuffle a little bit, missing some jumpers. And at one point, I think, what was it? Nebraska was 3 of 7 from 3, I want to say. I think they got to 3 of 8 with a miss from either Buchtengel or Garcia. Frager hit one, and then Nebraska's next 3 threes were early clock threes, open threes, but they were from Garcia and Buchtengel. If they both hit one of those, or they go even 1 of 4 in that stretch, maybe things are a little bit different for Nebraska. But Jared Garcia got his first playing time since Michigan and didn't do anything to positively impact the game. Didn't see him on the court in the second half, right? Buchtengel made some really good plays defensively, and I'm more okay with a guy like him taking those threes. I think Nebraska would be too. Like, they're open, right? Those are the shots Nebraska wants in the flow. And if they hit one of them, hey, great, look, role player stepped up and made a shot. But that's kind of the other way this game changed, right? Because Nebraska misses those threes early on. Sanford starts 0 of 2 with some pretty good looks. But down the stretch, obviously it was the rebounding with a guy like Oscar Clough. But Harrison, CJ Cox hit some really big shots for Purdue late in that one. Jack Benter hit one as well, and a couple free throws. Purdue's role guys stepped up when Nebraska was making its run. I mean, Braden Smith had his normal game, right? I mean, 13 points, 10 assists, and 8 rebounds, but just 5 of 15 shooting. Fletcher Lawyer made 4 threes, but it took him 17 attempts. You hold Trey Kaufman-Renn scoreless in a half of basketball. That's tough for anyone to do, but that's where you credit Purdue's quote-unquote other guys, right? A transfer in Clough, an upperclassman experienced guy in CJ Cox, a revelation in some ways, especially recently in Benter, for stepping up more consistently and especially late in the game for the Boilers.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, there's a lot of emotions. I'm sure you got the text line open as well on how this game played out. And we'll get to this one because it kind of ties on to what you just said. And I still want to try to keep these listeners involved. 3317 says, the main thing I'm worried about for the future of this season, we obviously have played and are playing very well hard on both sides of the ball. I don't think we're gassed in games, but we do seem a little more worn down at times lately. When we get to March, we may need that 8th guy off the bench for a spark, and right now we do not. I'm a little nervous with 7 guys, with just Gale and Braden off the bench. Does Nebraska need to get a little bit more depth, to your point, or can they make it with 7, and do you feel comfortable with that? Or do you want to see guys like Garcia or even Leo Curtis step up in a more prominent role in games like this where things just aren't clicking, you're getting killed on the glass, and maybe you need to go find a spark?
So first of all, let's pick up on that last point. It's really funny because Matt Painter said that when Nebraska started making its run, Purdue had to adjust and go smaller, right? So as much as you would think it's Nebraska adjusting to what Purdue's doing well, Matt Painter said, no, you know what? We needed to adjust to Nebraska there in that second half, which is just kind of funny in light of the conversation that the text line wants to have, because the text line is also right. It's hard to survive an entire regular season playing just 7 guys. But at the same time, you don't want to just force guys onto the court, right? In a game like Purdue, in a game like Illinois, in a game like Michigan, in these big-time matchups, you only play the players that you can trust. Jared Garcia got another crack. Whatever was going on with him behind the scenes, he had an opportunity, didn't make an impact. Yeah, he scored his first point since Washington on a layup, but didn't hit an outside shot, wasn't a factor, didn't help Nebraska's rebounding improve, didn't do much to facilitate on the offensive end, right? He had his chance in a game like this to make his mark and prove that he belongs in that rotation. Didn't necessarily do it. Leo Curtis, I'm still kind of surprised Nebraska pulled his red shirt. He was already going to be out today. We heard that from Fred Hoiberg yesterday. He wasn't an option, nor is Ugnias Drusevicius, who continues to work through whatever physical maladies that he has afflicting him right now. So then, like the texter said, you're down to a guy like a Kendall Blue. But Kendall Blue, I don't know if the guy's played 60 minutes all year. I don't have that pulled off the top of my head. I don't know the reason as to why. We've never really gotten a clear answer as to that, and I don't want to speculate. But, maybe Nebraska needs to run those guys out there a little more. Maybe, 2 minutes of Jared Garcia here and there would be good for Nebraska to maybe save a foul for Rinkmass or save a little bit for the legs, right? But at the same time, those players have to earn the coach's trust. They have to earn not the right, but the privilege to be out there on the floor. And so, theoretically, Nebraska should play more guys. I think that if you want to frame it in a positive way, you hope Nebraska plays well enough to where there are more opportunities for those guys to see the court here in the coming weeks, right? Getting Northwestern at home on alumni weekend, have that one in cruise control by the 10-minute mark and be able to go deeper down the bench, right? Save some legs for Price Sanford, who isn't shooting quite as well now as he has at times, right? You save some legs for Sam Hoiberg, right? Get a little bit more Cale Jacobs. I know he's in the rotation right now, but if you can have Cale play more minutes than Sam in a game at one point here down the stretch, that's huge, right? Have Marcus Lawrence take some shots. He had some nice moments in this one to take some pressure off the wings. Continue to, work Frager back into the rotation. I think what he can bring off the bounce is something that he needs to rediscover for Nebraska. So with a game against Northwestern at home, you also have Penn State and Maryland on the schedule yet if you're in Nebraska. Those are opportunities that you can't overlook. You got to take it one game at a time. But between those 3 games, that's where I think you want to rebuild that depth. Find ways to get guys confidence in those games. Steal a couple minutes here or there in Iowa City or out in Los Angeles a couple times. See what happens with where you're at on senior day. But it wouldn't shock me if Nebraska gets to the NCAA tournament and, only plays 7 guys, or essentially only plays 7 guys with spot minutes for an 8th. That's not rare in college basketball. But I put less of that onus on the coaching staff in the regular season, especially in games like this. It's on the players to earn their way onto the court. I don't think Nebraska is, artificially suppressing guys' minutes, right? I think Nebraska would love to have another option or 2 that they can trust. But in big-time matchups like this, if you can't trust a guy, you don't want to throw him out on the court just to say, look at our depth.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, we've seen it before, whether it's this team or other teams, when you try to force minutes and then it just turns into a bigger disaster. I talked to Jake about this. There's the good, bad, and the ugly in this game. And obviously the ugly is the rebounding. You can say the bad's the free throws. Mm-hmm. What is the good? I mean, is the good just coming back? Because again, I don't want to discredit Nebraska. They fought hard, right? They deserve some credit for fighting back in that. But again, I was kind of just blown away by, how bad Purdue played in that second half. I thought they were really off key, and credit Nebraska's grittiness in willing to be more physical, in trying to make them more uncomfortable so they're not just flowing into their offense. But what's the good in this? Like, what are the good headlines you can kind of pull out of this? I keep saying double-edged sword game where there's a lot of headlines, some good, some bad.
Well, Nebraska shot a decent enough percentage from 3, right? Going 12 of 32 from 3 is going to be enough to overwhelm quite a few teams in the Big Ten. You have Rinkmass hit 4 threes. He really broke out shooting for the first time in a while. Jamarcus Lawrence had a couple big ones down the stretch for Nebraska. That's positive. Cale Jacobson did his part. He hit the 2 threes that he took. I think Berke Buchtengel showed at times why he can be an X factor and a spark defensively for this team. He, got his hands on some passes, and even early in the second half, didn't result in a steal, just tipped it out of bounds, fired up the crowd. went and finished 2-and-1s on the offensive end. So I think those are the majority of the positives. I mean, I think Fred Hoiberg said it pretty well as well. It's a long game, right? You look back at the first 3 minutes if you're Nebraska and say that's where it lost it more than anything, right? But it's a long game, so you crawled back into it. What we saw, Harrison, is that when Nebraska is on, it can play with anyone in the country. Hasn't been the middle of the season that the Purdue fans and Matt Painter have wanted. But there's a reason that team was picked, as a really trendy Final Four caliber team. I was pretty in on Purdue this year. I thought they had shored up their one real weakness in the middle. That's getting exposed a little bit right now, despite as tall as they are. But Purdue's really good. They're experienced. They've played together. They've won a lot of games. I have this pulled up from Big Ten Ben Stevens. Tonight was Purdue's 17th top 15 game since the start of 23-24. The Boilers are now 12-5 in top 15 games in those 2.5 seasons now. Only 58 teams in Division I have played 10 or more top 15 games in that span. Purdue's the only team with a winning percentage of 70% or better, right? Purdue's been in these moments before. They're tested. It's still relatively new to Nebraska, who, yes, took down Purdue the last time they saw them on this court. Probably a better Purdue team, certainly record-wise at that point, led by soon-to-be National Player of the Year, Zach Edey. But the positive for Nebraska is it has evidence that when it plays basketball the way it's been coached to, it can hang with anybody in the country. You saw it at Michigan. You split the season series with Illinois, and you outscored Purdue by 16 points and a half. That doesn't necessarily happen all that often. So, yeah, there are certainly things that Nebraska can take away on the positive side, and I don't know if it's enough to outweigh the negatives. I mean, certainly in a losing effort, it's always fascinating to see who looks at the dark gray cloud and who looks at the silver lining. But again, I think more than anything, if Nebraska lost this game 80-77 and neither team led by more than 7, it's a completely different conversation. But we saw the same kind of Nebraska identity where there's 20 kind of stop and start minutes where there's a feeling out process. And against lower level competition, right? If this was Northwestern, you see Nebraska lead by 5 at the half, right? Against Indiana, you see Nebraska able to complete the comeback on the road. These are just the slim margins that the top 15 basketball games are decided by. At the end of the day, that's what it comes down to for me.
And from 2052, it's not just chaos here in Lincoln. Huge upset. The Fighting Illini, number 8 Fighting Illini, lose to the Wisconsin Badgers, who have been starting to catch some heat lately, 92-90. Another overtime thriller. So again, you look at this, and the good for me is it's not March yet. Like, we can afford this loss. Yes, it's a gut punch, especially the way it ended. Jamarcus Lawrence slipping on a wet spot. I mean, not even your worst villains would write that script. That's just a horrendous way to lose a basketball game. But
can I jump off on that really quick? It's unfortunate, but should it have gotten to that point? It did. So you have to bemoan it and go wipe the floor, mop boy, go do it. But also Nebraska got the stop that it needed. It forced Braden Smith to miss 2 mid-range jumpers with the game on the line. That's not something he does very often. You did what you were supposed to do, except for grab the loose ball rebound. So yeah, it's unfortunate. It's not how you draw it up. I think Jamarcus Lawrence might have had a lane if he's able to stick that foot in the ground and split the trap that's going. But again, it would have been a tough shot, right? I don't think Jamarcus Lawrence was getting all the way to the rim in that situation. Probably would have been a full speed into a full stop pull-up jumper. I was talking with people on Media Row that it was probably going to Jamarcus Lawrence to get downhill instead of Sam Hoiberg, who Nebraska had the ball in the hands of at the end of the first half. And then at the end of regulation, right? Sam Hoiberg gets that rebound off the missed free throw, tries to go coast to coast. So yeah, it's unfortunate that there's the wet spot, but I have a hard time saying that's what, lost Nebraska the game. Maybe it was the final nail in the coffin. Maybe it was the person who's kind of tapping down on it to make sure everything was sealed. But it's kind of, man, why'd you have to get to that point to begin with?
Yeah, don't catch me wrong. Like, that's not the reason they lost the game. And just talk about one of the most anticlimactic.
Sure.
Yes. It was just like, if you're inside that arena, I'd imagine you could have heard a pin drop after that moment.
You mentioned the roller coaster. I was impressed with how loud the Pinnacle Bank Arena crowd got especially late. I mean, people started filing out at the U4 when Nebraska's down double digits or close to it. That crowd got on its feet. It was fired up before the game. It took the gut punch early in the game, but PBA bounced back in a way that I definitely didn't sense against Illinois, right? That was a much better showing, I think, even from the fans, as Nebraska gave them certainly more to cheer about in the second half here against Purdue.
Well, I want to get your final thoughts before we get out of here, Austin Norman. And one of them to me, has this changed your perspective on Nebraska basketball at all, at the end of this game, or is this still the team that you think it is, which is to me, a good thing, because to me, it's still a team that belongs in the March Madness at a higher seed.
No, not really. I've been saying it for a couple weeks now. At least going back to, let's say, Michigan and Illinois. I said in those two games, Nebraska played like a top 15 team in the country, right? I could argue that Nebraska played like a top 15 team in the country at times tonight, except, again, it's how they got to play at that level, right? Played like a bottom 250 team in a lot of ways in the first half, played like a top 5 team in a lot of ways in the second half. Certainly showed the grit, the resolve, the toughness of a team that can accomplish some pretty great things here coming up at the end of this month and beyond. But no, I mean, I think that Husker fans still ought to feel like they're on the magic carpet ride. Maybe you're not at 30,000 feet. Maybe you've dropped down to cruising it at 15,000 feet, so be it. But this is still a 21-3 basketball team. They're good, right? Did anyone see this coming? Did anyone expect this? No. I said it multiple times on Old School, multiple times on Postgame. Nebraska's got the resume to be top 5. They got there deservedly so. The underlying metrics always said, yeah, Nebraska's probably, top 10 or borderline top 10, certainly top 15. And if Nebraska settles in as just a top 15 team, how long have Husker fans been waiting to settle into a top half of the Big Ten team consistently? How long have Husker fans waited just to sniff the AP rankings again? So, yeah, certainly Nebraska's armor has some chinks in it. I'm not going to argue that. There are plenty of reasons to be concerned and feel like you're looking forward now to hoping Nebraska gets a good draw and a good matchup in March Madness, as you see a team like Kansas really start to take off, as you see Wisconsin playing better. Illinois had its moment in the sun, and who knows, in the last month of the season, St. John's, we've talked about as a team that could get hot. Nebraska's in a dogfight for NCAA tournament seeding. I know we got that text a couple times here, but it's different when you're in a dogfight for NCAA tournament seeding and protected seeding-ish 1 through 4 versus being in a dogfight for the NCAA tournament, right? If Nebraska was sitting here instead of 21-3, if Nebraska was, let me do some quick math. Let's say what would that be? 16-8,
around 15, 16 wins.
Right. 16-8, 15-9. Okay, this seems coming together. Can they get it together for the stretch run and make a push with this schedule to the NCAA tournament? That's not the conversation we're having. So this has been already a wildly successful year for Nebraska. You want to see them pick it up because of the conversations we were having and the sweet dreams that the many Husker fans were having at night, right? I still think that team is in there somewhere. I think that team's going to come out more consistently here over the course of the next 7 games when the schedule, takes a little bit of a turn in Nebraska's favor. Tonight's a gut punch. It stinks because this was really your last great opportunity for a quad 1A win at home. You didn't have it, and then you thought you had it, and then you almost had it again, and then it slipped through your fingers. But no, it's not damaging. Nebraska's still in a really good spot. And again, go back to what you were thinking about this team before the season. I would put that to everyone who's listening out there. It stinks. It's going to stink in the moment, but I promise the sun's going to come up tomorrow. Maybe I shouldn't promise that. I'm not omnipotent, right? But I can all but promise the sun is going to come up in the morning. It's going to be okay. Nebraska is still in a great position. I think having something to work on down the stretch run, work out the kinks, iron it out in the grind of conference play in February. So by the time you hit that West Coast road swing, you come home for senior day and your sights are set on Chicago and beyond for postseason play, you're rounding back into the form that Husker fans saw for the first 2 months of the season.
Well said. With that being said, one more time, I want to shout out our sponsors: Union Bank and Trust, John Henry's Plumbing, Heating, Air, and Electrical, and of course, Lincoln Airport. Austin Norman, you got anything else that we missed before we go ahead and get out of here?
No, I think that's pretty good. I will tell people no old school tomorrow. So this will probably be it for me on this game. We'll start turning the page to Northwestern, right? They come in for alumni weekend. See if we can't get a list of guys coming in, put together, take you through that one. But no, Nebraska's still in good shape at 21-3. Dreams of a Big Ten regular season championship are slipping away. But that double/triple bye still absolutely in play for Nebraska fans. So maybe don't hold off on wait until Thursday to get to Chicago. Maybe start looking into some Wednesday tickets as well. But again, based on where we thought this team was before the year, not too bad.
Well said. That is Austin Norman. I am Harrison Arns. And I encourage you guys, go hop onto the next stream, Raph's Good Take on sports, or just listen on the Brick and Mortar. We'll keep this conversation going. And if you guys wanted to call in, I know Chris Raff likes bringing in the ticket listeners. So we'll keep it live right here. Appreciate it, Austin. We'll let you out of here. I am Harrison Arns. Appreciate everybody listening. Again, shout out our sponsors, Union Bank and Trust, John Henry's Plumbing, Heating, Air and Electrical, Lincoln Airport. Don't go anywhere. We'll keep it rolling. 93.7 The Ticket.